From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the MarTech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to discuss how to harness the power of artificial intelligence to gain actionable insights from your sales calls. Joining us is Masami Middleton, who is the CMO of CallRail, which is a technology provider that helps businesses turn more leads into better customers. CallRail's lead intelligence platform, including call tracking, form tracking, and conversion intelligence, reveals the best lead source and call insights to help optimize marketing and lead conversions. And today, Masami and I are going to discuss how you can unlock call data insights using artificial intelligence. All right, here's the first part of my conversation with Masami Middleton, the CMO of CallRail. Masami, welcome back to the MarTech Podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Mistakenly, I said, welcome back. CallRail was the first ever sponsor of the MarTech Podcast. We've had a myriad of guests from your company, but it's been a little while. So I know it's your first time on the show, but CallRail in general, welcome back. It's wonderful to have a representative from your company back here on the show. I've learned a lot about CallRail over the years from our podcast interviews, everything from call tracking, form tracking, conversion intelligence, basically understanding what is happening outside of your organization that then leads to a marketing conversion. But we're in a brand new world. We're focusing on artificial intelligence now. ChatGPT is here, Bard, Microsoft getting into the game. Talk to me about how CallRail is helping unlock call data insights using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a great topic and obviously a timely one, given all the buzz that we hear about AI. We've actually been in the AI game for quite some time. So AI has been fueling our conversation intelligence product since 2016. So it's really not a new thing for us. And we kind of chuckle from time to time when we hear just how animated people get about artificial intelligence. For us, it's just part of the muscle that we flex with conversation intelligence. And our sort of flavor of it is obviously around voice data or speech data. And to your point, the wonderful intelligence insights that we can glean from call data. So we've been doing it for a long time. We take a very pragmatic approach to it. To us, AI is not about an academic exercise or like the marketing buzz or the cool factor. For us, it's how can we apply AI in a way that our customers can benefit? And that can be related to some of the things you just said in the intro here. Like, how do you use that to make sure you optimize marketing campaigns? How do you use that to optimize how agents are engaging on the phone? How do you use it to add more data and intelligence to your visitor journey or to your MarTech stack? Sharing that data across solutions like CRM to make sure that we can see clearly all the different aspects of a lead and what characterizes a great lead that turns into a customer. So again, our focus is on call data. And one of the best things about call data is it's just so rich. It's so rich with insights around buyer intent, about sentiment, about the outcomes of a call, the keywords or the language that customers use to describe their pain or describe your product. So we are very much about how do we just bring those out. And I think most companies know that call data is rich in terms of insights, but the issue is that those insights are trapped in those calls or in the recordings if you're recording calls. And unless you have a solution that can extract those insights, you're not taking advantage of it. So we're very much about the call data.
I appreciate that CallRail is always on the cutting edge of technology. And in this case, the rest of us are catching up when it comes to artificial intelligence. My understanding, how somebody explained it to me in a podcast at the beginning of this year, when the buzz around ChatGPT started to really hum, was we're in the third iteration of artificial intelligence. The first was if this, then that. Hey, look, we trained artificial intelligence all of the rules of chess, and we taught it how to play, and now it can beat a human. And the second one was essentially large data models, right? Looking for patterns in disparate data. We're in the third iteration, the large language model, which is understanding the relationship between all of these words. Is what CallRail has been doing in the past a third generation technology and you were ahead of the tech curve? Were you using large language models, or is this something that CallRail itself is now just starting to integrate, but you've been using other types of AI in the past?
I'm glad you brought that up, Benjamin. We have been using large language models, and that is really what powers the AI engine behind conversation intelligence and also just the other things we do to optimize across a buyer journey. And that language model is done in partnership with a fantastic partner called Assembly AI. In fact, we just had an innovation day with them last week. Our teams are tightly aligned. They are a leader in speech recognition, transcription, and analysis. And really what they do that augments what we do is provide super high fidelity speech recognition and transcription, because the ability to really extract insights is really dependent on how accurate that is. Their accuracy is near human level accuracy, and it's trained. I think they're currently training a large model on millions of hours of speech data across several languages. So we have been very careful about how we build that or how we partner to do that. And as such, I think that the evidence is in the data that comes out of the call recordings and the call transcripts, and then what we do in terms of summarizing the actual essence of the call and also the sentiment of the call. We do a really good job of that.
So I think that's where the rubber meets the road, and where for marketers, having access to all of this data is one thing. Being able to put all of that data into a large language model is another thing. Being able to actually use it for utility is really what matters. And we've been thinking about this here, with our podcasts. We run a podcast production service. And one of the things that occurred to me was we can take all of the interviews we've done over the 5 years of running the MarTech podcast, putting into a large language model, and ask questions about what the MarTech community thinks about a given topic. But I don't really know what utility that has. I'm not quite sure who's interested in that thing. What are the ways that marketers are gaining value using your large language model? How do they actually get insights from their call data?
We take a critical eye at AI, just like you just described, which is unless it's pragmatic, unless it's actionable, it's really of no use. It's just a science experiment or something that you talk about but doesn't really have business impact, right? So we often use 3 A's to describe the way we do AI. It's accessible. For us, it is built into our solution, and our solution is accessible to businesses large and small. And so you do not need a data scientist to access the kind of insights that we are surfacing. We're very much, it should be accessible, otherwise it's not usable. The second A is around accuracy, and I just told you about the high fidelity speech transcription that we do. It's the grounding that we have to be able to glean the right insights that are accurate. And then the third A is it's automated. You don't have to go through a manual exercise of one-off asking questions, getting answers, thinking about what to do with the answers. It's built into what we do. And these are the insights that allow marketers or call center or agents to run their business better, drive sales, drive efficiency, drive customer satisfaction. And it's built into how our system operates. It's not relying on you figuring out how to apply it, right? So applied AI is maybe a way to think about it. And it's applied AI from a voice-centric focus.
That's your fourth A is applied, or maybe it's applied artificial. Anyway.
I guess there's another A.
It's a double A. A's for everyone. I guess the question that I have to follow up on that is, tell me a little bit more about the type of insights. You mentioned sentiment analysis. 50% of calls are positive or negative. Okay, I don't really know what to do with that. What's the level of granularity? Give me some more concrete examples about what can be taken out of an artificial intelligence-driven call data set.
So you brought up sentiment analysis, which is one of the newer features in our conversation intelligence solution. if you find that you're trending lower on sentiment. So we summarize the sentiment as positive, neutral, or negative. If you see a lot of negative sentiment calls that are coming from a single agent, that's obviously a training opportunity to make sure that the agent is engaging in the right way to drive positive sentiment. But beneath the sentiment, there's also so much rich data that for a number of years, we've already been tracking keyword spotting, for example, that link to the outcomes that you're kind of trying to drive in a call. For example, if the outcome you're trying to drive is an appointment, for example, for a doctor's office or home services business or say a law firm, you want to drive a meeting, right? And so we can glean the types of keywords that indicate that the meeting is being scheduled. So keyword spotting is good for that purpose. Keyword spotting is also awesome for optimizing bidding strategies with Google Ads. So you can take the insights from our conversation intelligence and use that to optimize the campaigns that drove the leads to begin with. So it's not about driving or optimizing Google campaigns to just drive a call. It's about optimizing Google campaigns to drive a quality call. So if you can qualify a call and feed that back to Google, that's another way. So it's marketing optimization. It's the way agents engage. You can optimize that. And it's also just having visibility, right? Visibility of the lead or the buyer across a journey from ad to customer.
So you're able to evaluate the performance of the people that are on the call. Is this sales rep efficient? What's the sentiment of the call, positive or negative? And I'm assuming you can benchmark one sales rep against the next to understand how efficient they are. I like how you said highlight where there are training opportunities. I would have also assumed it was figure out who's not a good sales rep and who's actually doing a great job. You're able to figure out what are some of the terms that are driving conversions, most common words. Are there any other insights that you can think of that you're pulling from your call data? Maybe product insights or features, feedback on pricing? What can you learn about how people view your products or services that can be fed into developing either new revenue streams or more efficient products?
I know that some of our agency customers get really deep into what sort of insights and what are the implications of those insights from calls. So, for example, we have one agency customer called Workshop Digital that used conversation intelligence to determine which keywords they should be negating from keyword campaigns. In other words, their product name is similar to some other products with companies that are completely in different industries. So by negating those, they're able to drive better leads that were qualified, right? That were actually interested in their product as opposed to misunderstanding what the product was. So keyword optimization is an example that's relevant. The other thing is just the data that you can pass to other solutions like CRM solutions or back to your campaigns or your advertising platforms. There's a lot of benefit in passing data on the caller or data on the lead that can be extremely helpful. So whatever your source of truth is for customer information, if you can add the caller information that we can glean, the length of the call, the marketing source, the PPC keyword that was used to drive that lead, the landing page that they came from, the campaign or the medium, those kinds of things.
Seems like there's a big opportunity for attribution. You have your sales rep hop on the call and say, hey, how did you hear about CallRail? What led you to schedule the call? And they're like, well, I went through Google search, but really I heard you on a podcast. Well, maybe it's the podcast that should get some attribution credit as opposed to the last touch attribution. Then again, maybe I'm biased in using podcast as an example.
I love that you mentioned that because I think attribution has many dimensions. We've been living in the world of attribution for a long time, since inception in 2011, right? And we do it in a software-based way where we really focus on the call, right? And we know that attribution breaks often when someone is dialing into a company, right? Because unless you have trackable phone numbers like the ones that we use and our customers use, that attribution breaks and you don't know where in the heck they came from. Was it a billboard? Was it a radio ad? Was it a mailer? Was it a Google ad? Was it Facebook? You don't know unless you have that tracking ability. But the call data itself offers another layer of intelligence. And to your point, they could mention podcast or something where there isn't a clickable thing to get them to come to you. So having both the call insights as well as the software tracking of attribution are two really valuable sources of information.
I think there's no doubting that artificial intelligence is becoming an increasingly prominent and powerful tool, but often the challenge with it is understand where it has not only accessibility, but application. Now, filtering through all of the data, all the words that are being said in every sales call you do to gain some central themes, understand what works, understand who's working, seems like a powerful way to gain access to your data, but also a way that's applicable. And that wraps up this episode of the MarTech Podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Masami Middleton, the CMO of CallRail. Join us again tomorrow when Masami and I continue our conversation talking about turning call data into marketing advantages. If you can't wait till our next episode and you'd like to learn more about Masami, you can find a link to her LinkedIn profile in our show notes, or you could visit her company's website, which is callrail.com, CallRail.com. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com, where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even send us your topic suggestions or your marketing questions, which we'll answer live on our show. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MarTechPod, MarTechPod, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can contact me directly. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day this year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.